Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today, we're speaking with a 35-year-old college professor with her PhD in international business from the University of Illinois, who grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, with her 4 younger siblings. She started working out during grad school and hired her newer coach at the time, Loleta, in 2020 for her first bodybuilding season, where she swept the competition. That was at her first show, before going on to compete 3 more times and then earning her pro card at NPC Universe in July of 2021. She has since competed in 7, I believe, open pro shows, placing in the top 10 at every single one, which is incredibly impressive. And I can't wait to learn from her. So welcome to the show, Danielle Combs. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, of course. I'm so happy you're here. And I like to start the episode by asking if there's anything you do or think about right before your heel hits the stage.
I do a lot of deep breathing, deep controlled breathing. Usually right before getting on stage. Up to that point, I've probably already said a prayer to myself in my head. So yeah, right before I hit the stage, I'm just chilling, taking deep breaths, and just telling myself okay, let's do this. It's showtime. And then I get up there.
Do you channel anything when you get up there, or do you feel very natural?
I would say when I first started, I kind of had to be more intentional about trying to channel Beyonce or somebody like that who's really fierce and stuff. But now I feel like it's more natural. It's just like waking up in the morning and brushing your teeth. It's just oh, okay, getting on stage today. Let's go.
I love that. I always like to say competing, I think when done really well and really right in a way that you're prepared, it should feel like another Saturday.
It does. Mm-hmm.
The only difference is you're sitting backstage with a tan on for hours, hoping you get to go on. Although now that you're a pro, you know exactly when you're going on.
Exactly.
Yeah, that must feel really good.
I like it. I didn't know how much I would just appreciate having a designated time as much as I do now. It makes life so much easier on show day when I know okay, we're going on at 10 or we're going on at 12 for a fact.
Right.
I love
And
it.
oh my gosh, yeah. And I'm sure your peaking process has felt so much smoother.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it helps us have a better idea of what my last meal should be, the day before a show and what I should be eating leading up. Yeah, it's a lot more smooth because we can better plan for the
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
What does a peak usually look like for you?
It has changed from show to show. From my very, very first show to now, there are some similarities, but it's so different from the amount of cardio to um, how much water I drink. This last peak I did. So actually, my last show was the Minneapolis Pro. So I guess technically I've done 8 pro shows now. And this last peak week, I didn't hardly eat any vegetables the second half of the week. And that was my first time ever peaking like that because we wanted to just be better reassured that I wouldn't have any issues with any bloat, especially in the lower ab area. So my coach just decided, how about we just take out vegetables kind of the second half of the week. And
Did
so
you
I,
notice
I
that?
literally just ate chicken and almonds and almond butter.
Mm.
for several days. Oh, and rice cakes. I noticed a difference. I definitely noticed a difference in like digestion because I didn't have the vegetables to kind of help with that a little bit, but I think it also did help in terms of making sure I wasn't too bloated either. So it wasn't bad.
Okay, you would do it again?
Sure, if that's what it took, yeah. If that was necessary, then I would not question it. I would do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand that. That's like the winning mentality.
Hmm. Yeah, but for the most part, the peaks, I mean, in terms of similarities, there's usually some sort of water manipulation. We are very mindful of sodium much more during peak week. Um, yeah, and that's about it. We do a
Yeah,
lot more check-ins than normal.
like multiple times a day.
Probably, especially since now as a pro, I have to travel for shows. Usually from the time I get to the destination, yeah, I am checking in multiple times a day.
Yeah. I feel like
Yeah.
it's such a nice way to know how your body's going to be looking as the day goes on, like from morning to evening when you look like your tightest or when you look your fullest and when you're
Yep.
what they want to see.
Yep.
Yeah, I only recently started doing that with my coach, like the 3 times a day check-in and then leading into the show. Also really being on top of sodium, measuring that, seeing how it affects the body, tracking it. So when I send the photos, I can say this is how much I've had already. Like it made a big difference.
Yeah. And you would never think that, like, if it wasn't for competing, I would not think that at all,
Right?
that sodium really matters that much.
Right. And like I noticed that so like there were times where I was looking like maybe a little bit fuller and then my coach would be like, okay, let's add in more sodium. And then it would like draw more of the water into the muscle and like
Uh-huh.
I would just start looking tight.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And even like before going on stage, like when I'm doing like my last little bit of pump up, my coach will be like, yeah, take a good squirt of some honey. And it's amazing just what that will do by the time you actually hit the stage, what
Yeah.
that sugar boost will do to your muscles and stuff. Craziness.
Seriously. Yeah, my coach like tried to explain it to me and I was like, I I was like, I don't remember what he said now, but I remember it was important and I trust him. So I do a Reese's cup usually with like a
Hmm.
bunch of salt on it.
Yep.
And it's pretty awesome. And I definitely can feel the pump more.
Yeah.
So let's go to the beginning because you have been able to do super well in this sport already, and you've come a long way from 2020, just
Hmm.
that alone. So, what inspired you to begin in the first place?
Um, I really didn't have much aspirations to even do this. I wasn't really interested at all. It just so happened that the gym we were going to, which was pretty much around the corner from our house at the time, was pretty much a bodybuilding gym. My coach owned the gym. The team was based out of the gym. I mean, of course, not everyone who went to the gym was on the team or anything like that, but it just happened to be a bodybuilding environment. And so after training there for some time, my coach and even my trainer would be like, yeah, you should compete. And I would just be like, ha ha ha, no, not interested at all.
Why weren't you
Yeah.
interested?
I didn't know everything that went into competing, but all I knew was like, this seems like something that would require a lot of time.
Mm,
And I was, getting started in my career, and I'm like, I don't have time for this stuff. But they were trying to reassure me, like, you're already doing the majority of what you have to do, which is showing up to the gym and training. I made my training appointments, and they're just like, you really just have to stick to the diet and meal prep and all of that. And I'm like, I'm still not really interested. But after like a long, long time of trying to convince me, I finally said, yeah, fine,
wow.
I'll do one show. And it was mainly because my husband was on board with it. He was like, I think you should just try it. And I was like, okay, if you say so, then I'll try. And
Wow.
yeah, and then here we are, like 2 years later.
What made them think that you should try it?
I guess my and well, I guess my physique, even though I'm like, I can't believe they saw all that potential just in how I was looking, you know, 2 years ago, more than 2 years ago. But I guess when you've been in the industry long enough, you can kind of more easily identify people who have good potential for the stage. Um, but also I think they could tell that I build muscle pretty easily. And
Hmm.
just the changes that were taking place just in my regular just lifestyle training with my trainer there. So they're like, yeah, you should just try it.
And you had originally signed up to train there while you were in grad school, right?
We were done with grad school.
Oh,
Um, I in grad school was probably when I first started kind of consistently working out, but that was with home workouts. Because one of my best friends was like a beach body coach at the time, and she was like, "Oh, you should do, some of the beach body stuff with me." And I was like, "Sure, why not? That'll keep me on a program." But yeah, up until we moved to Florida and I joined that gym, I was only doing home-based workouts.
hmm.
And then, yeah, I started training at that gym. And after I don't know, a year or so of training there is when I was like, okay, fine, I'll do a show.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you went in there and you
Yeah.
swept everything. Like, how
I was
was
not
that?
expecting that. I wasn't expecting that at all. I had no expectations. The only thing that I kind of wanted to do was to win True Novice because, I mean, that was my only opportunity to do True Novice. So I'm like, okay, well, I'd like to win that one. Anything else that happens after that, I don't really care. But yeah, they kept calling my name. I had no idea what was going on. I'd never seen a show because it was 2020, it was COVID,
Yeah.
the COVID year, and so I didn't have the opportunity to go to any shows because there weren't any prior to the one that I did, which was the first one that they had down in South Florida
Was it
after the
Flash?
lockdown.
What show was that again?
That was Southern States, and
Oh,
it
okay.
occurred in September 2020.
That's amazing that
So
you
that
went
was
in.
like our first show back from COVID shutdowns and stuff. So yeah, I really showed up having no idea what a show looked like, how it runs. I'm just like, I'm here. And then, and then they kept calling my name. I was like, okay, where do I go?
I bet. Yeah, that would be like really strange at first. You'd be like, I've not been to one. I don't even know how these work, but
Yeah, not a clue.
that must have been really cool as well, being a true novice and only having
Hmm.
just recently gotten into like the training aspect.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so impressive. And did you understand at that point like what it meant to be nationally qualified, or were you just like, I'm just gonna do one and be done?
I had not a clue. And yes, I was up until show day. I was definitely like, this is it for me. I'm doing this one and that's it. And then once the show was over and whatever, I won the awards and I was taking pictures, and one of the judges, he took a picture with me and then he was like, so you're going to come to nationals, right? And he was referring to Miami Nationals, which was going to be like a couple months later. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know what this nationals is that you're talking about.
And
And so I had asked my coach about that, and she explained it to me. And but she was like, "But no, 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 you're not gonna go." I was like, "Oh, okay." Not so sure I wanted to anyway. So,
they wanted you to have more experience or what?
hmm. And also, I think she wanted to make sure that if I did a national show, that I would be pretty much like undeniable. Like, there's no way I'm not getting a pro card. And so I think that I probably could have done well if I did Miami Nationals that year, but probably wouldn't have gotten a pro card. I don't think I wouldn't have been undeniable. Not at
Yeah.
that point. Yeah.
So how did you decide what shows you were gonna do to support that journey?
Um, it took me a minute to decide that I was going to do another show in 2020, another regional one. And I think my main motivation for doing that was because I had already spent so much money on the suit, the shoes, the jewelry, and all of that. So I was like, okay, it's kind of dumb to just do one show. I'll do another one. So I did one in November, a regional show. And then that was it for 2020. And then after thinking about it some more, I told my coach that I guess I would not mind trying to do a national show in 2021
Wow.
because she was very confident that I could turn pro in 2021. My trainer was very confident. So I'm like, okay, all of these people are really confident in me. Maybe I should try it. So
All these
and
people
so
I trust and who have
yeah,
guided me.
all these people say I should do it. And if they believe it, all right. So so that's what we did. Like I had a very, very, very short off season. 2020, my last show was in November, and we started prep back up at like the end of January 2021, and just to get ready for nationals, basically. And
That's
yeah, we were
awesome.
successful.
Yeah. And what was the feedback you were working off of from each?
Yeah, after my first show, my main feedback was to just grow my upper body a little bit, mostly shoulders, a little bit back, but that was it for the most part. So we did that, and we were actually able to make some really good improvements just within a few months. I was training really hard though, upper body, like twice a week, doing upper body. I don't do that anymore now because I don't need to, but that was the main thing. And then after my second show in 2020, the feedback was to just continue to put on some size. Um, yeah, we did that. We had time, but I didn't need to put on too much size because then I'd be too big for bikini. And I grow muscle pretty quickly, so we knew that I didn't have to grow too much. Um, but that was pretty much it.
And you had made a post saying like you really didn't love training shoulders.
No, no, I hate it. And maybe that period where we were growing shoulders really, really, really made me dislike it even more because I had to train it so much more and so, so hard, so heavy.
What
But
what
it
is
paid off.
yes. Oh my God, your growth is incredible. Like seeing the transformation from 2020 to even now,
Yeah,
I'm like, holy crap, girl.
yeah. Thank you.
Um, you're welcome, of course. What did the workouts look like for you? What made them so unlikable for you personally? Because shoulders and back I freaking love. So I'd like to hear like what did a workout look like?
Oh my God. I think it's the typical moves, the typical workouts any of us do, like lateral raises and front raises and all these different rear delt cable pulls and whatever. But it was so heavy. I mean, I felt like I was like training like the figure girls. Um, but we were trying to grow. And so I guess we had to do what we had to do. Um, but for the most part, there was no way I could have done it without a trainer to spot me. If I had to do all of those like upper body workouts on my own, it would have taken me a lot longer to get that level of growth. So I'm very thankful that I had access to a trainer who was able to really, really help me in that department. And she knew what she was doing. So it was just
Clearly.
intense. It was just very intense.
Yeah. So would you be going to failure? Would you be like,
Yes.
okay, using a weight of like a rep range to like 8, or were you looking at like high volume even?
When we were growing, it was less reps. Um, Less reps as we went up in weight.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I was just so thankful that that growing period wasn't that long because it was torture. Now it's like now I don't even really train shoulders for real anymore.
Wow.
Not that much, because now the feedback is be careful of your shoulders.
Oh
They're
my
good, but
God.
like you don't want them to get too big. So, you know.
That's amazing. And during that growth time, were you also like increasing food and decreasing cardio?
hmm Yeah. The time between my first ever show and the second one that I had in 2020, between September and November, I had never in my life eaten 3,000 plus calories a day. But that's what we were doing.
Wow.
That's what I was doing. And that's what I needed to do for that, to get that growth, and then also to support just the intensity of the workouts I had to eat. So I should have appreciated it more, because these days it's not the same. Not the same amount of food. Definitely not the same amount of carbs either.
Where are you at now? Like, what's prep look like compared to improvement season?
Oh, during prep,
Are you okay?
it just it just makes me so sad sometimes. I'm just like, I want to eat more. But actually I'm not like starving. And if you just look at the calories, it's not that bad. Like I'm not sure if I've ever dropped below 1,100 calories, you know.
Okay.
Um, it's just I really like to eat.
Yeah,
So
first. I know. Oh man.
so being like cut down to just like 3 ounces of protein or whatever in a meal of chicken or whatever I'm eating. It's hard because I want to eat like five plus. So it's okay. Only temporary.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know that like everything's come in seasons, and if you can
hmm
respect all parts of this process, you will have more longevity and success in this sport.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And
It's okay. Like I get a little sad when I eat sometimes, and I'm over it in like 2 minutes.
right, you're like you're like thinking of the Olympia point stand.
Yeah.
You're like, let me refresh my page real quick. Oh,
Yeah.
my link's not there. All right, back to work.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that your ultimate goal? I think I remember reading that anyway.
Mm, yeah, yeah, that was definitely the goal for this season, to just work as hard as I could towards Olympia. Um, but now we're getting close to like the end of the qualification period. So I'm like, the only way for me to go is to win a show. So that's getting a little further and further out of reach a little bit, because there's less opportunities. But even beyond trying to go to the Olympia, the main goal is to definitely improve every time. So, and I know we've definitely done that for sure, in a good amount of time. So, regardless of what happens with this season, I think it's been a success, especially with all the other stuff I've had going on between moving across various states, and we've had some deaths in the family, starting a new job. It's been a lot going on since like March. So, but to be able to just show up and do well still is has been a big accomplishment.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. You should be so proud because you have faced a lot of challenges,
hmm
and those challenges weigh on your body in many ways, and they can
hmm
take a toll on your mind. But it seems like you, at least from what I've seen, is you've displayed a lot of resilience and a lot of gratitude through it.
Yeah, it helps. It helps with like longevity and just continuing to go. I mean, you can't focus on like, oh man, I didn't get any Olympia points this time. But I choose to have more of a positive mindset.
Mm,
And having a positive mindset is a choice.
yeah.
And that's what I choose to have. Um, and I choose to just have like peace and positivity in my life. So I just try to look for the positive things, the things that I can be thankful for, grateful for, in every situation. And instead of focusing on the negative too much. That's why I'm like, ugh, I wish I could eat more food. But then I'm like, but I'm thankful to be able to get all this food too. So, I mean, food's kind of expensive these days anyway. So I'm glad that I'm fortunate to still be able to go to the grocery store and buy what I need for prep. So I
I
look for
love that.
positives.
It's
Yeah,
all perspective, like
exactly.
seeing the blessings, seeing the fact that we're given this opportunity. And I think
Hmm.
it's a really just a great example of something you do day to day that supports you in committing to yourself and your goals. Are there
Hmm.
other things you do on a day-to-day basis that you think make a difference in that?
Usually every day I will start by reading some sort of a devotional in my Bible app. And a lot of times I'll do it like when I'm doing fasted cardio, so I can kind of read that on my iPhone while I'm doing fasted cardio. That helps with just starting the day off with a good mindset.
Mm.
And then after that, it's just trying to just continuously in my mind focus on positive things, even though there are a lot of things that annoy me or irritate me, especially when I'm deep into prep.
Mhm.
But I know that I need to, I've been pretty good about just kind of like checking myself and checking my attitude and my mindset. Like, okay, Danielle, you need to shift, get it together.
I love that. Like you have to I if I find myself falling into those types of behaviors, I'm always like, you made this choice, you want to do
Hmm.
this, it adds to your life, it fulfills you in so many ways. You want it to be hard. It being hard right now is a sign that you're growing or you're changing and transforming in some way, which is
Yep,
a really great thing.
yep, exactly.
So what was your lifestyle like before you got into competing?
Oh, I was gonna say fun. Um,
Now wait a minute.
no, it's still fun, but it was well, okay, so I was still like working out on a regular basis. So exercise has definitely been a part of my just regular routine for quite some time.
Hmm.
Um, but more so like more fun stuff. Like if I wanted to go take a Zumba class, I'd do that. Um, or go do some hit boot camp or something. It's like I had more flexibility and freedom
Yeah.
in my workout choices. Whereas now, well, at least with bodybuilding, you have to be more intentional and strategic with your training and with your cardio. You might just be limited to certain things. So that was a little different when it comes to exercising. But then other things with lifestyle, we travel quite a bit. I mean, we still do, but we travel, um, eat a lot because my husband and
Mhm.
I are foodies. But even more so, we love a good happy hour. Oh, we are the happy hour king and queen. That was our thing to do.
Tell me more about that.
Oh God, that is what we like to do. Like, okay, we go to a new city who has the best happy hour,
Mm.
or we just like to try different happy hours in our own cities. So, yeah,
What's
those
your
are some
favorite in
fun
the
things.
cities you've been to?
Oh, goodness. There's so many, especially when we were living in Florida. There's so many to choose from because some places have all day happy hour. But ideally, we loved any happy hour that involved a deal on oysters. Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
Why is
oysters.
that?
I just love oysters. He likes them too. My husband likes them too. But I just love oysters. And so if we could find a happy hour where the oysters are like $1.99 or something, yeah, we're going there.
I love that. Do you drink
Yeah.
as well?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
You're
we
like,
love
yes, I do. Absolutely, I do.
yeah, I like wine a lot and we love a good cocktail. And actually I like to say that I practice mixology at home, which I do, but I would not call myself like a real mixologist just yet. But I do pretty well though. But that is probably one thing I miss a lot while I'm on prep is I can't really play around and experiment with my cocktail concoctions because I'm on prep. But yeah, we have a lot of fun just kind of making drinks and experimenting with ingredients at the house.
That's so cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Does your husband live this lifestyle as well?
No, like the bodybuilding, like the fitness lifestyle.
Yeah.
No.
You laugh when you say that.
Oh yeah, no, no, it's not for him.
Yeah. Well, what does he think about you doing it? Like, how does that work in the relationship dynamic if he doesn't live it? But like, you guys obviously have maintained doing things
Hmm.
you enjoy, but how does that change in prep, or has bodybuilding changed your relationship?
I think he's learned how to adjust. But I think what helps is that, especially with bodybuilding, with us, we tend to be on the same schedule all the time. So a lot of times I'll do my workouts first thing in the morning. He's probably still asleep. So there's not much of a conflict there because I've gotten most of my workout done before he's even up for the day. Um, so that doesn't really cut into much of our time together. And then with me having to cook and meal prep my foods, he does it for himself too, sometimes. Not as much as I do, not as consistently, but he does because it's like I'm already going to the grocery store. So you might as well get what you want to eat too, so you can make it. Um, so he's been supportive and understanding, but he's also made it clear that okay, we can't do this forever. So, and I agree too. So it can't be forever. So we
So,
don't even have kids yet, so we have to keep that in mind as well.
so you want kids.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And if it can't be forever, what does life like when you think about life after bodybuilding? Because I'm
Hmm.
trying to imagine like going from the level of commitment and drive you've got
Hmm.
to like letting some of that, like would you let go of that? Would you continue the lifestyle? What would change?
I don't see myself completely abandoning it. And and it's quite possible to come back to it like after having
Mhm.
kids or something if I want to. I think what my because we have already decided like after this season, I don't like I have to go on a sabbatical, basically a baby making sabbatical. Um, because I'm 35, like it is time. And but I think I would still be motivated to continue to exercise consistently, eat right, so that I can have a healthy pregnancy, healthy delivery, but also be in a good position if I do decide that I want to come back to the stage um, post postpartum. So I would definitely kind of use that as a motivation. The stage would still kind of be motivation, even while trying to getting pregnant, all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
I don't want to let myself go completely.
Right. And you worked so hard for these goals and you've changed so much and you've probably learned and gotten to a place where
Yeah.
you respect yourself and you respect the progress you made and what was required to get it.
Hmm. It was a lot. It was
Yeah.
a lot. And I don't want to have to completely start from scratch all over again.
No.
So it would be nice to kind of just make sure I prepare myself, set myself up right to make a good comeback if I choose to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really cool that you and your husband are on the same page as well. Like
Hmm.
you respect what he wants, he respects what you want. You both have similar wants as well and desires, but it sounds like he is supportive of the lifestyle, just doesn't want it to last forever.
Yeah, I mean, but even with when I am on prep, I do try to make an effort to, or we both do, to try to still hang out and do couples things, date night things that are prep friendly. Like we always try to find a bar that allows you to bring your own food. So we can go to the bar, he can have his drinks or whatever, hang out. I can bring my prep food and whatever, and we can just kind of, hang out and talk and, hang out like other adults do. It's just I'm eating my prep food and he's having a beer or something, but
Yeah.
we're still out on a date, you know. So we try to find prep friendly things to do. Go bowling. I always bring my food if we do that. It's no big deal.
And most places you can bring your own food because, like, with all
Yeah,
the dietary things now, a lot of
exactly.
how do you approach like travel and because you do enjoy the travel, you enjoy having those
Hmm.
experiences. So how do you make that work or how have you managed to do that with the bodybuilding lifestyle?
Yeah, to be honest, I really don't like traveling while I'm prep, like
Mhm.
at all. Not by air, not by car. I don't like it. But obviously I have to compete for
Right.
one. And then, other things come up. I might have to travel for a conference or something like that. So I just have to do what I have to do, pack my food with me, usually stay at a hotel or Airbnb with a kitchen of some sort, have an idea of where I can work out so that it's convenient and I can get my workouts in. Pretty much set it up so that I can do my everyday things I would do at home, just in a different location. So,
Absolutely. What about when you're
yeah.
not in prep?
Oh, well, then it's all, I do whatever I want to do. But I will say that having been on prep and traveling while on prep, I have built up the habit of just bringing food with me anyway and bringing snacks, healthy snacks. Plus, airport food is expensive anyway. So
Yeah.
I would prefer to just pack some rice cakes and whatever protein bars or whatever I can eat. Um, that's easy to travel with. I pack food still, even if I'm not in prep.
Well, you got to eat anyway, right?
I have to eat anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. So you might as well like save money and have things that make you feel good too.
Yeah, exactly. And I just like drink water the whole time. I almost just always drink water. If I'm not drinking coffee, then it's water. Yeah.
Do you have a go-to coffee order?
No, it's just black, plain old
Wow,
black. Yeah.
that's awesome.
Just get straight to the point.
We all know why I'm here.
Hmm.
So let's talk about the support of your family as well, because you did endure some loss over the last year that was with
Yes.
significant people. So how did your family's like love and support maybe influence your approach or views on all this?
Well, they've always been supportive of the bodybuilding stuff from day one.
Mm.
Always like, oh, is there going to be a live stream or we have to watch it? And like even my mom and stepdad helped pay for my first ever bikini. And that
Oh,
was
that's
that was nice of them. They were
awesome.
like, we're gonna help sponsor you. I was like, oh, that's so nice.
Oh,
Um, but and they've even traveled to some of the shows if they can make it, which was also very nice. Um, but even with like just recently, like, my grandpa passed, about 3 weeks ago.
mm,
And when his health started to decline really rapidly, maybe when I was about 2 weeks out from a show,
mhm.
and my mom was like, yeah, you might want to come see him because he's declining really fast. And so I flew up. I'm like 2 weeks out. Um, I fly home. I had to pack all my food and all that kind of stuff. Um, and then I get there, and thank God I saw him when I did, because it was like the next day he passed away. And so it was clear, okay, I'm not competing next week because I'm gonna have to come back up here. And I was really, really looking forward to doing that show, is the Battle of the Bodies in Fort Lauderdale. Janet's Battle of the Bodies. And I couldn't do the show because his funeral was that day, well, the day before. So that was kind of a bummer. But I mean, obviously, going to the funeral was way more important and being with family. And I did have to think for a minute, am I going to do any more shows after this? Because we're already getting into October almost. Qualification period is getting closer to an end. And I'm like, I'm just kind of tired of all this travel. And travel is getting expensive. But they were all encouraging of like doing at least one more show if I could, especially since I wasn't able to do Battle of the Bodies and I was already ready for it. So it's like, well, why let this physique go to waste? So
Right.
yeah, step on stage again. So
What's the
that's what I
next
just
one?
did in Minneapolis. I did
And
that
do you
one.
have any more?
We did have one that we were looking at in November. It was like the last one before the qualification period ends. But I can't do that one anyway because I have to travel for work. So I'm not exactly sure what we're gonna do. I mean, if we have to end the season now, I'm perfectly fine with that too. Um, because it's been still a really good season. But so I to be determined over the next couple of days.
Well, because there's always the option to still compete, like after.
Past the yeah, I could.
Well, because then
I
you
don't,
can start getting there early for next year
yeah,
if they keep the same standard anyway.
if they do. But I think, well, my husband and I had already talked about this year being the last one for a little while. So,
Oh, and are you
um,
pursuing like your family goals?
yeah,
That's exciting.
yeah.
That's so cool. You've had such a successful, like you said, season and just a career thus far in bodybuilding. And
hmm
you identified like how your support system has played a role and how you've really enjoyed it so much and your pro experiences with your compared to your amateur. You mentioned that you enjoy like
Yeah.
having showtime. Are there other experiences that have stuck out to you in comparison from pro to amateur or maybe from amateur that you miss?
Well, at least at the amateur level, it's a lot easier to win something.
They always
I
say
should
like
say
enjoy it
easy,
because it
but
may be the
yeah.
last time you win.
So that's the only thing. Like my amateur portion of my bodybuilding journey was short. It was yeah, not even a year, maybe like 9 months long or something. So yeah, after that, it's tough to get a medal, even just a medal around your neck at a show at the pro
Yeah.
level. So I kind of miss that about the amateur days, but not as much as having a designated time to show up. Because I hate just sitting and waiting around backstage for
Yeah.
hours. Yeah, or going to that athlete meeting early in the morning that the NPC competitors go to. Yeah, I don't like that.
Well, I'm really glad that you're enjoying yourself as a pro, even though like letting go of
Yeah.
like wins, but it sounds like I mean you've just done so incredible. And like when I see your physique, I'm always like jaw to the floor.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Like that's a display of your hard work and your commitment and it's just really amazing. And I think with those changes comes a lot of lessons. So I'm wondering if there's any lessons you learned along the way that you feel has supported you or maybe changed you even outside of bodybuilding.
Yeah, there's some like first of all, the power of consistency is huge because that is what's really helped me get to where I am now. It's just being consistent, like all the time, like always getting the cardio, always showing up for the training, always, prepping and eating what I'm supposed to eat. Um, doing my vacuums every morning. I've done vacuums every single morning
Yeah.
since January 2021. And that consistency has made a big difference.
Mm.
Just in my core control, my waistline, like I can see it. Um, so yeah, I've learned a lot about the power of consistency and also the importance of, well, bodybuilding has really forced me to be really good with time management, which is something that I need to be good at for my career anyways, like my real career. So bodybuilding really forced me into being better with time management because I have to get my cardio done and I have to do my training and I have to have time to meal prep, but then I also have to have time to like do my job. So I have to put all of that stuff on my calendar and block out that time and be intentional. And that's what I've had to do. But it helps a lot with time management.
I wanted to ask how you manage your schedule with work, with your competitions.
It's craziness. And that's why I tend to like to do the bulk of my shows in the summer months when I'm not, because I don't really teach summer classes. I really only teach like, in the fall and spring. So I prefer to do my competing in the summer or very beginning of the school year because once the school year really gets going, it gets really tough. Especially now as a pro and having to travel. And then for some of the shows, they want you to check in on a Thursday, even though you're not competing until Saturday. And so that's kind of a long time away from work. But yeah, I've just had to really rely on my calendar to be able to manage bodybuilding and then my actual career as a professor. That's the only way. If it's not on my calendar, it's not getting done. That's what I've learned about
Absolutely.
myself.
That's literally my motto. I would like people would tell me friends, and in the
Yeah.
past relationships, but like be like, oh, I want to get together, and I'm like, okay, don't mind me as I open up my calendar and my planner and put this in. Like you were such a priority to me. I don't want you to think that me putting you on your calendar is me like scheduling you in, but I literally would have to do that because if not, it's like I'm either going to find something else to do with that
Yep.
involves work, or I'm going to rest.
Yep. Exactly.
So this actually is interesting to me too, because I imagine that being a professor is a taxing job because, and I don't know how you profess, if that's the right term. But like I imagine you might be on your feet a lot, or you might be grading a lot. So there's a
Mhm.
lot of mental power, and then maybe preparing lectures. So like, what's the
Mhm.
nature of your job, and how do you prioritize your health and competing and recovery with that?
Yeah, and I don't even know if I really got a good system for that. Especially like but when you're just a couple weeks out from a show and you're talking about mental capacity or brain capacity, I struggle, especially when teaching, like my most recent peak week. I taught on a Wednesday of peak week and I came home and literally just passed out on the bed. Like I was so tired. Just standing up there teaching drained me so much. Like I had no energy and then I had to teach. And so when I got home, my body was like, yeah, you need to lay down. So it gets tough when you're in the depth of prep because the energy is so low. And then yeah, the activities that require brain power, um, it's really hard. Like, and I have to do research too. I have to do research and publish my research. It's hard to do that when you're hungry, tired, sore, and your brain is foggy.
Mhm. Yeah, and as a professor, usually don't you have like requirements for publications?
Yes, yes.
So what are some of the requirements, or like are you working on anything now even?
Yeah, I'm always working on something. Um, I try to like if I have meetings with my research partners, I try to schedule them on days where I don't train at least. So at least I'm not completely wiped out because I don't have to train every day. I might do cardio every day. I don't train every day. So I try to schedule some of those more super high brain intensive activities for days that I don't train because at least I'm not as exhausted. Or I make sure to schedule them in the mornings because even if I do my cardio and I train in the mornings, I'm still okay on energy. but once we get to like 6 p.m., it's kind of a crap shot. Um, there's no telling how I'm gonna be feeling. So
That's
I
why
could
I
just
like to
like
work out in the
fall
morning
asleep.
too. Yes, exactly. Like you could take a nap and you're like, but then
Hmm.
just I might as well just go to bed at 8, you know? Just
Yeah.
yeah, I hear you on that. I feel like it's so key that we stay tuned into our bodies and our energy levels for that reason. Because even though it can be unpredictable, like we can notice those patterns of like, okay, I
Hmm.
consistently perform well in work at this time, or in reading at this time, or exercising at this time.
Yeah, and I would say that is probably one thing that my husband really doesn't like about competing is just how tired I get. In the evenings, like especially if say we do go somewhere together and we're driving home, and even if it's a 10-minute ride back to the house, I'll be knocked out in the passenger seat. And he gets so annoyed. Or we've even been out hanging out with people and I'm just like dozing off at the table because I'm just so tired. And I
Totally.
feel so bad because I know he's embarrassed, but I'm like, it's also like 9 p.m. and I've been up since 4:30. So I'm really
Exactly.
tired.
Oh my gosh, seriously. I think it I think a lot of times we can zone out and we get
Hmm.
it just our like viewpoint can get warped. So that's also why it's like so important people understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. And also for us too. Now, does your work know about what you do? Like, do your students know? Does your school know?
I usually tell them on like the first day of class of the semester,
That's
just
cool.
to give them a heads up, because usually I am still kind of in prep at the very beginning of the semester. So I just tell them, give them a heads up, just in case they notice changes in me physically,
Right.
like that whole diet phase thing. But that's about it. Like, I usually don't ever bring it up again to them unless they ask. My colleagues, I will tell them, but I'm not all like super open about it either. I'm not like, hey guys, guess what? I do bodybuilding. It
Right.
just will maybe come up if we're talking about something like exercise. And I'm like, oh, yeah, well, I do this because I do bodybuilding. But then try to play it down a little bit like, oh, yeah, on the side, I do a little bodybuilding, but it's no big deal. Just so they don't think like, I'm totally not focused on my actual career because I don't want them to
Mhm.
think that either. But they know it's not anything I'm ashamed of or
Right.
anything I want to hide from anyone. I don't think anyone should be ashamed of it. Usually people are pretty impressed.
Yes, I agree with that statement right there. Like you can kind of keep it to yourself. Sometimes I find it awkward to talk about with people who don't really know it too, because
Yeah.
you're like, well, it's not everything you maybe think it is. And
Mhm.
plus, sometimes it is nice to have a place where no one actually knows that about you, and it just feels
Yeah.
like your thing and you don't have to talk about it.
Yep. I agree.
I hear you. So, do you feel like your pursuit to your PhD may be paralleled or has similarities to the road you had in bodybuilding and continue to have?
Yeah, very much so. And even me,
Mm,
my husband and I, we've talked about this too, because we went through the PhD program together.
that's cool.
And that's like the hardest thing I've ever done in my life up to this
Wow.
point. I mean, and I haven't given birth to kids yet, but so far that's the hardest thing I've done. And it's very hard on you mentally. You don't have to be a genius to get a PhD. You have to be consistent and you have to have a high level of perseverance. The people who
Mm,
get PhDs are people who can persevere through a lot of hardships and negativity. And I mean, because a PhD program and even a career in academia, you get more criticisms than praise. That's just the nature of the field. Everything gets critiqued, your research, your writing style, your presentation style, like everything, your teaching, everyone has something to say about what you do. And most of it is some level of criticism instead of like, you're so awesome. It's never that. It's always, well, you need to work on this. I don't know. I don't agree with this. This needs to be better. And so you go to bodybuilding and it's a lot of the same thing. It's, well, you need to grow here. You should have come in a little tighter here. Maybe your suit should have been this color.
Mhm.
Um, so you have to have thick skin with getting a PhD, and you definitely have to have thick skin with bodybuilding as well. So having being in bodybuilding and being in that environment where you're getting critiques and feedback, I'm just like, oh, well, this is nothing new to me. I can handle this.
I love that. Well, especially because
Yeah,
both are critiques of the work you're putting in every day
yeah,
and that
it
you're passionate
is.
about.
It is. It's like, yes, for both. It's like, wow, I've spent hours and hours and years with my
Mhm.
research and with bodybuilding. And it gets put on display for a very short amount of time. And then you get all of these critiques from these people. And you got to deal with it. You got to take the criticism and then try to get better
That's
in both
right.
fields. Yeah.
How long did it take for you to defend your dissertation?
Oh man, I it took me 6 years. I was in my PhD program for 6 years.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. For
What was
six
your
years.
hope? Like, how fast were you hoping to be in it for?
Like 5. So 6 wasn't that bad. It's a lot. It was kind of average, I guess, at my school or in my program. Um,
What did you do it on?
oh, international business. That's my kind of my area of expertise. So my
That's awesome.
dissertation was on like international business and banking regulations and stuff. So I used to have a actual working background in banking. So
Wow.
yeah.
Is that why you pursued the PhD initially?
Yeah, I pursued a PhD because I was tired of working a 9 to 5. I thought it was pretty boring and the work was cool, the money was all right, but I didn't like sitting in a cubicle every day, all day, doing the same thing. So the PhD and even the career I have now, like it's hard, it's strenuous. Um, Money's still good, but there's a lot of flexibility in it. Like I still have to work a lot of hours, but at least I get to choose those hours. It's not like a set 9 to 5 block. So I appreciate that.
That is really cool. And what was that path to becoming a professor? Like, did you know that was how you were going to spend your time, or you just knew you didn't want to do the 9 to 5?
I was doing a PhD to become a professor ultimately. So yes, that was the plan.
Wow. How'd you know you liked teaching?
I didn't, but
Risk it.
I figured I could do it. I was mostly interested in the research aspect of it. Um, and I still like that too as well. But turned out to be okay with teaching too. I'm not bad at it. My evaluations are decent. So
It's great.
I guess it has worked out very well.
Absolutely. That's really awesome. And what do you like about the job other than the flexibility? Like, what do you kind of get outside of that for yourself?
I like that it provides a lot of opportunities for travel because we have conferences every year, but the locations change. And so, with me being an international business scholar, there are a lot of opportunities to travel to different countries and present my research. So, I like that a lot. And meeting all these different people and even connecting with students too. It kind of helps me keep in touch with what's going on with them with this generation. What are they, Gen Z or whatever? Like it helps me to keep in touch with what's going on with them and how they view the world, which is totally different from me. um, and also what their college experience is like, because it's also very much different from when I was in undergrad, however many years ago that was, like 12, 13 years ago. So a lot has changed.
Yeah, seriously. And I remember some of my professors through my not just the bachelor's degree, but the master's as well. They were like, we learned so much just from you guys because we get to read all your papers and grade them and see
Yeah.
all the new research.
Yeah, seriously.
That's really cool. Well, I think it's amazing that you see that consistency is powerful in both of
Hmm.
those realms. And it really sounds like the PhD showed you that resilience you have to criticism or to feedback, regardless of the criticism. You're like, I'm working hard for this, I want this,
Hmm.
and I'm still going to show up. So I remember reading a post of yours that was like, you got feedback at one point at a show, like they couldn't pinpoint exactly what needed. Like, how did
Oh
you
yeah.
handle that?
And I'm still not quite sure what they meant. It was that was last year. I can't even remember which show it was, but yeah, it was something about the upper body and just kind of refining how my like shoulders, chest kind of looked in my front pose, I guess. Um, well, yeah. So only thing we've really done is we've kind of changed how I train upper body this season, which I don't do that much of it now. And that's pretty much it. I mean, there's been some posing adjustments, and then of course, my posing, like I check in with my posing coach, definitely leading up to a show, just to make sure that we are displaying my physique in the best way possible. Um, but yeah, it was really hard to try to decipher that one.
Oh, definitely. Well, especially because you're like, okay, obviously they have to nitpick, but then you're kind of
They
thinking,
do.
yeah, you're like, okay, I know something's off, but like, how do I work on something being off? But it seems like you've got some people in your corner who knew what they could at least fine tune.
Yeah, try. Yeah, yeah. So I'm like, well, thank God I have a coach. This is why you need to have a coach. I'm like,
Yeah,
this is what you get paid to do. You can help figure
exactly.
it out.
So true. Now, what are some things you've changed in your posing that you feel made noticeable differences?
Very, very slight adjustments. We've played around with different foot positionings in my like front foot.
Hmm.
Um, Even in my back pose, we've had to tweak some things, even as my glutes have changed a little bit. So yeah, I mean, as my physique changes, we always check in with my posing coach to see if we need to make adjustments to posing. As the physique changes, you have to see if your posing needs to change as well. But yeah, very, very slight adjustments. Not
Yeah,
that
for
much.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And I wanted to ask as well, like what some of your goals are with the rest. I mean, obviously, if you want to come back and you want to go into
Hmm.
prep, I understand that. But like, what are your goals in your career? I forgot to ask you that, and I wanted to
Oh,
know.
career goals. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. So I definitely want to get tenured, become a tenured professor. And so
Mm.
that just requires me to just put out more research and get it published. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. I know there's some things my husband wants to do in terms of starting up his own nonprofit and like a mental
Wow.
health practice. And so I think that's something that we kind of jointly want to work on. Um,
Mental
so
health
yeah. Hmm.
for who?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, mental health for who?
His demographic that he prefers to work with is adolescents.
Mm.
When we were living in Florida, he was working for the county with mental health for substance abusers,
Did he
but
get
they
his
were
PhD in
adults.
something different?
Yeah, he got his PhD in education, but he also has a master's in social work.
That's
So he
awesome.
yeah. So but yeah, he prefers to work with teens, young people.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And what inspired the move?
Oh, it was kind of just random. We were fine living in Florida, but then I got an email about a job opening here in Alabama, and they were looking for an international business professor. And I was like, oh, well, it wouldn't hurt to check into it. And then before I knew it, I was being flown out for an interview and then got an offer. And here we are.
Here we are. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, I always like to conclude episodes by asking for your best advice. So, what would you say is your best advice for someone who has never competed before but would like to? And then your best advice for someone on their road to pro?
Okay, so if you've never competed, don't do what I did, which was just jump into it without doing any research. And I've listened to quite a few of your podcast episodes, and I think there's kind of a
Oh.
general consensus amongst us that you really should do your research if you've never competed before, such as going to a show and seeing what it looks like. I did not do that, but I also didn't have the opportunity because it was COVID. But doing research on a coach, or at a minimum, definitely talking to people who compete currently and maybe who don't compete anymore, so you can get a variety of perspectives. I
Ooh.
did not do any of those things. So I'm very fortunate that things played out the way that they did in my favor. Um, but that's not always going to be the case for everyone. So I think if you've never competed before, definitely take your time and do some research, and also make sure that you have the ability to stick to a consistently stick to a training and like diet regimen. Because if
Yeah.
you can't do that, even just for a couple months, then you have like no hope prepping for a show. And then if you want to turn pro, I like to tell people, and it's really short, if you're going to do it, do it. And
Mm.
by that, I mean, do all the things that is required. Um, and that's it. Don't complain about it. Don't take shortcuts. Don't half-ass it. Do what you have to do to become a pro. If that means you have to spend extra time in the gym, if that means you have to train upper body twice a week, even though you hate it, like I did, you have to do it. If you have to do an hour, 2 hours of cardio, just do it. Don't half do it. If get a real suit. Don't try to make your own suit and think, oh, I'm gonna turn pro on this like homemade bikini. No, you're gonna have to spend the money on like a real suit, unfortunately. Um, yeah, you're gonna have to do all the things.
Absolutely. What I like is how you emphasize that. Like if you're gonna do it, really do it.
Yeah,
Because
that's it.
that's exactly right. Like if you're gonna spend all the time, the energy, the effort, the money, don't you want to do it with your full
Mm-hmm. And the posing. Oh God, do your posing. You have to every day, especially if you're trying to turn pro, because it's so competitive. Well, you've been to the nationals
Mhm.
shows. I mean, they're competitive, and a lot of times it does come down to posing because everyone looks good.
Exactly.
And if you're not practicing your posing, it's not happening.
That's exactly right. Oh, I love that advice. I just really like how you emphasize that so much. So, can you let everybody know how they can connect with you and continue to watch your journey?
Yeah, mostly on Instagram. It's at Miss DJ05, MISSDJAY05. I am on TikTok. I just got on TikTok like maybe a couple weeks ago. Um, and I don't even know what my TikTok name is.
Well,
I
if you
think
find
it's just
it,
Danielle. I think it's like my actual name.
okay.
Yeah.
Toxic
Oh, I
relationships.
just tried to pull it up. I don't know. I'll have to let you know so you can put it in the show notes.
Yeah, I was gonna say send me the link or something, or I'll go and find it and we'll get it in the show notes. And of course, you know, if you guys are listening to this and you want to go back to certain parts of the episode, in the show notes, you'll also see all the episode timestamps, a summary of the episode, and a summary of the topics discussed. So you know what you can expect or look out for, or even share with your friends. And tag us as you listen. You can tag me at celestial_fit. And then when you guys do this, it goes a long way for the athletes, or reach out, let them know what you thought, share your takeaways or follow-up questions, because we always love that. It definitely means a lot. And Danielle, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Oh, good. I'm glad it was fun for me too. And to everybody listening, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world where you're listening to this episode. Just